All right, viewers, let's take you through on what is our top debate this evening. Just about half hour before the Prime Minister addressed the nation, we heard from President Trump, where he seemed to have insinuated very clearly that it was America that brokered the ceasefire between India and Pakistan. He more so also said that he leveraged trade to do so. At the back of it, we have the Prime Minister who spoke decisively. And after that, we also had a press brief by the Ministry of External Affairs, who laid bare that it was Pakistan that actually had sought a ceasefire and not India, rather begged for a ceasefire. Well, yesterday, once again, President Trump came out and reiterated exactly what he had said 2 days ago. Once again, suggesting that it was Pakistan that brokered peace and ceasefire, that it was America that brokered ceasefire between India and Pakistan, and that President Trump had used and leveraged trade to do so. He also seemed to insinuate that Pahalgam terror strikes was a small issue. At the back of that, we've had massive domestic politics where India is concerned, the opposition attacking the government and the BJP on have India's interests been compromised at the back of what at least the opposition claims is pressure from the United States of America. The fog of war has lifted. Ceasefire has been announced. India has made it clear. This is a strategic pause, not peace. Any Pakistan misadventure will be met with decisive action. India making it clear that it was Pakistan that begged for a ceasefire. An hour before the Prime Minister's address to the nation, the American President Donald Trump made a startling statement.
My greatest hope is to be a peacemaker and to be a unifier. I don't like war. Just days ago, my administration successfully brokered a historic ceasefire to stop the escalating violence between India and Pakistan.
A bold claim by the US president where he said it was America that brokered peace between two nuclear-armed neighbors, emphasizing that he used trade to broker peace. A claim he reiterated a day after on his visit to Saudi Arabia. Trump once again took credit for the ceasefire between India and Pakistan, saying he used trade as leverage to dial down tensions.
My administration successfully brokered a historic ceasefire to stop the escalating violence between India and Pakistan. And I used trade to a large extent to do it. I said, fellas, come on, let's make a deal. Let's do some trading. Let's not trade nuclear missiles. Let's trade the things that you make so beautifully.
Moreover, what could be read as a huge affront to India was President Trump seeming to insinuate that Pahalgam was a small issue. India has dismissed these assertions, reiterating that peace efforts are rooted in its own diplomatic and strategic decisions. Prime Minister Modi reinforced India's long-held position. Kashmir is not up for discussion. He stressed that India and Pakistan can only have a dialogue on terror and return of POK.
हमारी घोषित नीति रही है, अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो टेररिज्म पर ही होगी। अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो पाक ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर POK उस पर ही होगी।
India has also firmly rejected the idea that American pressure played any role. The message from Delhi is crystal clear. India doesn't need mediation, and that it was the action of the forces that led to Pakistan pleading for ceasefire.
Be clear, it was the force of Indian arms that compelled Pakistan to stop its firing.
In the high-stakes game of diplomacy and deterrence, there is also inter-domestic politics, with the opposition now asking questions of the government. Why hasn't India given a strong rebuttal to the claims made by President Trump? Jairam Ramesh of the Congress tweeted, questioning the government if India's interests were mortgaged under US pressure.
राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप की ओर से, उपराष्ट्रपति वांस की ओर से, सेक्रेटरी ऑफ स्टेट रूबियो की ओर से जो बयान आ रहे हैं, ये हमारा क्या रवैया है, हम क्या चाहते हैं, हमारा रुख क्या है? विदेश मंत्री चुप हैं, राष्ट्रीय सलाहकार जो सुरक्षा सलाहकार हैं वो चुप हैं, प्रधानमंत्री तो अपनी चुप्पी तोड़ते ही नहीं है किसी मामलों पर.
Other parties also joined in questioning the government on why no strong offensive to America.
अब सऊदी में जाकर आपने दोहराया, फिर कश्मीर पे बोल दिया आपने, जो हमारी ऐतिहासिक समझ, हमारी जो अब तक की एग्रीमेंट्स के हिसाब से वो उसके बियॉन्ड है. मेरी चिंता उस बात को लेकर के कल MEA ने प्रतिकार किया, लेकिन ये प्रतिकार देश की सबसे बड़ी संस्था संसद की ओर से सामूहिक रूप से, पक्ष विपक्ष का फर्क नहीं, वो जाना चाहिए ताकि इनको भी ये एहसास हो, अमेरिकन प्रेसिडेंट को, यू कांट स्पीक दिस काइंड ऑफ लैंग्वेज एंड गेट अवे विद इट. ये नहीं होगा.
While domestic politics peaks, ultimately it's a tightrope diplomatic war for India. Top focus on To The Point this evening. In midst of all of this, viewers, once we have the opposition now attacking the government, led by the Congress, asking the government that were India interests compromised at what the Congress feels is third-party mediation. Well, the entire Congress doesn't quite feel it, because there is certain senior leadership of the Congress which is feeling to the contrary. And why I say that? Listen in to what now has become the Congress's Tharoor conundrum.
You've got Donald Trump, the United States president, claiming credit for the ceasefire, virtually saying that he's ready to mediate on the Kashmir issue, and importantly, drawing an equivalence between India, the victim, and Pakistan, the perpetrator. So when it comes to the world, and you know the world well, India doesn't seem to have got the kind of unequivocal support that we should have, given the fact that we were the victim and Pakistan the perpetrator. How do you see what Donald Trump has done? Has that in some way reduced the effectiveness of Operation Sindoor?
Look, I'm afraid none of us in India can be accountable for Mr. Trump's somewhat erratic behavior. All I can say is I don't believe he was properly briefed. I don't believe he understood the purport of what he was saying, because in saying what he's saying, he made four major mistakes. First, the equivalence between the victim and the perpetrator, as I pointed out. Second, he talked about mediation. India has never accepted or welcomed mediation, and I'm 100% sure that we did not seek American mediation on this matter.
So there, while the Congress was going after the government on what Congress seems to suggest is third-party mediation and India's interests compromised, one of its own senior leaders says that there has been no mediation. Meanwhile, certain questions we pose before we cut across to our panel this evening. Should India have been firmer in its rebuttal to America? The other question that we ask, has India made its displeasure clear on America equating India with Pakistan? Viewers, through decades, India's diplomatic fight and success has been to dehyphenate itself from Pakistan. It's been successful in doing so, but President Trump did not. On the other hand, is India's multi-alignment foreign policy working or backfiring? Earlier on, India had the non-alignment policy. With coming in of the Modi government, we moved towards what is multi-alignment policy. Is it working or backfiring? Should India really take what President Trump says seriously? That's the big question. There's so much that President Trump has said. If you look at what the comments that he made in Saudi Arabia, where he went on to say that he brokered peace between Russia and Ukraine, well, that is still ongoing. So should really India take what President Trump says seriously? Third-party mediation was also there, viewers, in the 1965 war and Kargil. Why take umbrage right now? Let's take these questions to our panelists this evening. Sanju Verma, National Spokesperson, Bharatiya Janata Party; Mahima Singh, National Spokesperson, Congress; Ashutosh, author and political analyst, in the studio with me; Karan Verma, author and political analyst. Each of you would be given a 2-minute timer to make your submissions, and then we will move on to the next panelist. I begin with Sanju Verma right at top. Sanju Verma, two big things. Number one, half an hour before Prime Minister's first address to the nation, you have the President of America come out and openly suggest that it was America that mediated, and it was because of America that there was a ceasefire, which India, of course, the MEA spokesperson, has contradicted. Then, yesterday, you had the President of the United States again seeming to suggest the same and also hyphenate trade with it, saying he used trade to leverage this ceasefire. He also, and we'll play that in just a short while now, seemed to insinuate, and I think that's a big one, Sanju Verma, where he seemed to suggest that Pahalgam was a small issue. While we've had a strong rebuttal coming in from the spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs, one wonders, shouldn't this have warranted a senior person like the Prime Minister himself, or at least the Foreign Affairs Minister, to make a strong rebuttal? Should we have been firmer in our response?
Preeti, first things first. Hats off to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I would like to take your platform to once again congratulate Prime Minister Modi for setting in motion what I call, and what many have called, the Modi doctrine. Let's be very clear. India, the largest democracy in the world, brought Pakistan down to its knees, and Pakistan is a nuclear power as much as India, brought Pakistan down to its knees in less than 23 hours by paralyzing and shattering 11 of its air bases and air defense systems. Point number one. Prime Minister Modi could not have been more clearer. He said 3 very important things in his address to the nation 48 hours back. Trade and terror will not go together. Trade and talks will not go together. Water and blood will not flow together. And as Prime Minister Modi said, हमने एक लकीर खींची है, हमने एक लक्ष्मण रेखा खींची है, हमने एक नया पैमाना सेटअप किया है, and that नया पैमाना, that नई लक्ष्मण रेखा is this: an act of terror will be considered an act of war. And let me tell everybody out there, Preeti, to your show, who have been saying, oh, Indira Gandhi बनना आसान नहीं है. जी हाँ, इंदिरा गांधी बनना आसान नहीं है, because Indira Gandhi, despite the 1971 victory, lost everything by way of a lame duck Shimla agreement on the negotiating table in 1972 by completely succumbing to every ridiculous demand of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. ये आपकी वही इंदिरा गांधी है who handed on a golden platter 93,000 Pakistani prisoners of war. But ये वही इंदिरा गांधी है who could not even get back 54 Indian prisoners of war who continue to rot
right
in Pakistan.
Sanju Verma, your time is up. Your fader is going to go down. I want to bring in the Congress spokesperson, Mahima Singh, into this conversation. 2 things, Mahima Singh. Number one, we've seen this realignment of world order. Should we really take President Trump so seriously? He's the same person who, in the same speech, while equating India with Pakistan, also seemed to suggest that he's brokered peace between Russia and Ukraine. That hasn't quite happened. You've had Zelensky, who hasn't even addressed what President Trump said. So should we really take President Trump that seriously? Number one. Number two, Mahima Singh, the fact is the Congress has constantly harped on third-party mediation. Let's hark back to 1965. What was the Tashkent Agreement? It was third-party mediation. Kargil War, what was it? It was third-party mediation.
Jai Hind, Preeti, at the very outset, as you asked me about the third-party mediation and what happened in 65 and 71, I must remind you that Shimla Agreement was entered into 72, which the BJP spokesperson is very lightly talking about right now. So I want to ask a straight question, which the Congress has been asking for many days. Has the Shimla Agreement ceased to exist for this government? They should spell it out straight. Are we open to third-party mediations now? They should also tell us whether diplomatic channels between the two countries, India and Pakistan, have opened now. Now you're asking me whether we should take Mr. Trump seriously or not. Well, you tell me, Preeti, because just months ago we saw Mr. Prime Minister visiting the United States. We saw the halabaloo across the channels. You know, Trump is pulling the chair for Mr. Modi, although he refused to come out and receive him, by himself, as he did many other prime ministers. We saw Indians being shackled and sent on US Army planes like criminals back to our country. Should we take Mr. Trump seriously or not, Preeti? So to the Prime Minister Modi, I want to say today, resounding the feelings that majority of Indians carry today for him and his government, in Irtiza Nishat's words, कुर्सी है तुम्हारी ये जनाजा तो नहीं है, कुछ कर नहीं सकते तो उतर क्यों नहीं जाते? Because you see, in the morning, the BJP handles tweet, याचना नहीं अब रण होगा. And by the evening, there is an arbitrary and absurd ceasefire that comes announced by Mr. Trump. 3:35, two countries speak, India and Pakistan speak. And at 5:30, we see Mr. Trump coming out. None of our defense minister, external affairs minister, prime minister, anybody from the government coming out. We want to ask it straight. Have they traded Sindoor? Have they traded Sindoor behind this ceasefire, which they even refuse to admit today?
Okay. Mahima Singh, your fader is going to go down. I want to cut across right now. In the studio with me is Karan Verma, author and political analyst. Karan Verma, the fact is you have the President Trump who announces the ceasefire. You have President Trump who, what India's entire diplomatic endeavor has been over decades to dehyphenate from Pakistan, equate India and Pakistan in the same breath. And then hyphenate trade to it, says he used trade to leverage. Right. In politics, in diplomacy, while, one has to walk that fine rope, diplomatic rope, there is also optics where your own domestic audience is concerned. What is this messaging, many would suggest?
So, Preeti, let's understand this. Donald Trump has been a trash talker. He's also gone on to say that Canada should become the 51st US state. He's also said that I have just brokered a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, and that ceasefire, supposed ceasefire, I think lasted for 2 hours. So, people take that with a pinch of salt when Donald Trump speaks. Of course, as an Indian, I did not like what he said. I do not like India and Pakistan being spoken of in the same breath. We are a 4 trillion economy, one of the largest economies in the world, and there is a terrorist pauper state. So, of course, I take strong offense to that. But, in diplomacy, sometimes you leave the others with a bloody nose. Sometimes you have to deal with them with an iron fist in a velvet glove. In Donald Trump's case, I don't think it augurs well if Prime Minister Modi or the foreign minister reacts. What we've heard from the spokesperson of the MEA is enough. At the same time, we also, by the way, proposed retaliatory tariffs on steel and aluminium at WTO. So, our actions also speak with regards to that. Donald Trump, by doing this mistake, I think he's burnt his bridges and he'll become a laughing stock. And he's done that in the past, so that shouldn't come as a surprise. Using trade as a leverage, that also doesn't add up well. We export more to US, and even if we export more, it's like $40 billion. That isn't such a big leverage. So none of his claims actually stand the test of water. But what has happened here is the fact that India has struck Pakistan 20 times. 9 terror strikes and 11 air strikes. And that is what stands the test. What Prime Minister right now said, Prime Minister Modi isn't a trash talker. He needed some serious issues which he wanted to address. He did that. He spoke directly to the Indian people. And he also set up a message for the world that now the doctrine of defense for India has changed. Gone are the days when the air chief requested after 26/11 that we must strike Pakistan, and there was lack of political will. Today we have political will, we have a leader that walks the talk, and that is the need of the hour.
Ashutosh, let me flip the same question to you. While optics mean a lot where your own domestic audience is concerned, ultimately diplomacy is a completely different game. So while, yes, many would suggest in chest thump and, claim that we needed to give a firmer, more befitting response to America. But, there is a diplomatic channel that India needs to follow. And ultimately, our message has been delivered.
See, Preeti, I think a lot of falsehood are being spread these days. And this falsehood has gone to the extent of even insulting Atal Bihari Vajpayee. People are talking about Kargil. There was an intervention by the Americans. Show me one statement from Bill Clinton or from the American administration of that point. I can tell you one thing very, very categorically because I covered that incident. Bill Clinton made it very, very clear to the Nawaz Sharif that Pak deliberately violated the LOC. And then he said, unless Pak troops gets out of the LOC, there will be no talk. And he was so firm that Nawaz Sharif had to fly to go to the Washington. And when Clinton wanted to talk to the Atal Bihari Vajpayee categorically told him, unless Pak leaves our territory, if he stays there even for an inch, I'm not going to talk to anybody. That was the firm message to the Americans. That was the firm message to the Nawaz Sharif. And look what happened. A joint statement came out. And what was the joint statement? Take concrete steps for the restoration of the line of control in accordance with the Shimla Agreement. That was the perfect defeat of Pakistan. India agreed. India was ready for the ceasefire. But when the Nawaz Sharif was on his knees, and Americans got the message. Here, Donald Trump is insulting India like anything. Not once, not twice, but 4 or 5 times. He has taken India for a ride. Why? Because we had gone to the America and said, let's vote for Donald Trump. When Donald Trump was contesting election, भारत में उनकी जीत के लिए दुआएं मांगी जा रही थी, हवन किए जा रहे थे, पूजा किया जा रहा था, और लोग कह रहे थे मोदी जी का दोस्त है. ऐसा दोस्त होता है? अब मोदी जी अकेले में कह रहे होंगे, अच्छा सिला दिया प्यार का तूने मेरे प्यार का.
Well, okay, all right, Ashutosh. I want to, Sanjeev Verma, before I bring you in, I want our viewers to hear another part of the same speech that Donald Trump made, where many would think that he tried to equate Pahalgam terror strike to a small incident. And that is huge, viewers. Let's listen in.
The whole group worked with you, but it was a great job. And I think they're actually getting along. Maybe we can even get them together a little bit, Marco, where they go out and have a nice dinner together. Wouldn't that be nice? But we've come a long way, and it could be, millions of people could have died from that conflict that started off small and was getting bigger and bigger and bigger by the day.
Once again, listen in to what President Trump said.
And the whole group worked with you, but it was a great job. And I think they're actually getting along. Maybe we can even get them together a little bit, Marco, where they go out and have a nice dinner together. Wouldn't that be nice? But we've come a long way, and it could be, millions of people could have died from that conflict that started off small and was getting bigger and bigger and bigger by the day.
All right, I want to now, go back to Sanjeev Verma, because Sanjeev Verma, at one end, you've had the President of America say what he did, where he claimed at least, and not once, thrice over, he's once again today in an interview to an American news channel suggested exactly what he did yesterday and the day before, that it was America that mediated, that he used, trade to do so, and both nations are his friends. But also to suggest what started off as a small incident and became bigger, to insinuate that the Pahalgam terror strikes were small is an abomination, Sanjeev Verma. And have we taken enough umbrage and offense to it?
Preeti, I would like to start with a Hindi quote of Rahat Indori. जुगनुओं ने फिर अंधेरों से लड़ाई जीत ली, जुगनुओं ने फिर अंधेरों से लड़ाई जीत ली, चांद सूरज घर के रोशनदान में रखे रहे, चांद सूरज घर के रोशनदान में रखे रहे. This is for the likes of Jairam Ramesh, this is for the entire left-leaning cabal, this is for the pseudo-secular gang who always questions anything that Prime Minister Modi does. 2014 के बाद इन लोगों की freedom of speech खतरे में आ गई. Nothing that India does is right. And this is also for the likes of Ashutosh. Let me remind Preeti, you made a very interesting point at the start. K. Natwar Singh, who was the Minister of External Affairs, he wrote a book, One Life is Not Enough, where he clearly said in as many words, between 1948 and 1964, 16 सालों के अंदर, there were 23 UN resolutions against India pertaining to Kashmir. और पंडित नेहरू हर बार जाते थे भीख मांगते हुए, to the Soviet Union, can you please use your powers to veto the UN resolution? After the Bangladesh Liberation War of 1971, it took the United Nations almost a year to recognize Bangladesh And that happened after Indira Gandhi again went begging to the Soviet Union, please use your veto power to ensure that the UN resolution is not brought to fruition and Bangladesh is recognized. This is not Sanju Verma saying it. ये K. Natwar Singh ने, who was a career congressman, अपनी किताब में लिखा है. And let me reinforce once again for everybody. I always say actions speak louder than words. Tim Cook of Apple has said now 85% of Apple's production will shift from China to India. ये सारे दरबारी कांग्रेस दरबारियों के मुंह में ताला लग गया. प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी ने 11 पाकिस्तान के एयरबेस स्ट्राइकिंग इन द हार्ट ऑफ रावलपिंडी तहस नहस कर दिया. सारे दरबारियों के मुंह में ताला लग गया. Last year we had a trade surplus of $41 billion with the United States.
Sanju Verma, your fader's down. And, also a request, ma'am, when I circle back to you, answer my question. No, I know you've come prepared with answering where the Congress is concerned, but do answer my question as well. I want to bring in Mahima Singh into this conversation. There's a point that Sanju Verma makes, Mahima Singh. Sometimes actions should speak louder than words. You can keep allowing President Trump to rant, but on the other hand, read the larger messaging. India's message has been delivered clear. And this time around, there is enough proof, Mahima Singh, to suggest that we've done more damage, be it physical, tactical, or strategic, or even psychological. So our message, where it should have been, has been delivered. Why get into petty politics right now?
So, Preeti, I'm wondering, is it petty politics when Trump goes from stage to stage with those grin smiles? I saw that scene that you played twice. The grin smiles from world leaders, many of whom our Prime Minister Modi calls his good friends, goes and hugs them. We have seen a failed diplomacy, a sorry state of foreign policy over the past 2 weeks. Not even one single nation came unconditionally to stand with our country, which has not been the case in the past decades in the history of independent India. Now, let me just say that when the BJP spokesperson speaks, you see, she's taken just as seriously as Mr. Trump is, across your panelists and across the people who are speaking outside. Because you see, when people say that who will take Trump seriously, including a couple of our leaders whose statements you've played, I would like to remind you that, you see, that's also how some countries look at our Prime Minister. Also, Ashutosh ji has mentioned in the, in his citation that our Prime Minister went to the US. He did Namaste Trump here. He did Howdy Modi there. You see, what has he caused to us? I referred to the shackled Indians, sent plane after plane, one plane after the other, 3 army planes of the US, sent, carrying shackled Indians, handcuffed Indians. They were fed beef. They were fed cow against their will. The BJP didn't speak then. The BJP doesn't speak when the Karachi bakery is vandalized. The BJP doesn't speak when Colonel Sophia Qureshi is bad-mouthed by one of their own. It takes a High Court of Madhya Pradesh to call for action against that Minister of Madhya Pradesh. But Prime Minister, External Affairs Minister, Defense Minister, she can sit here and badmouth Indira Gandhi as much as the BJP spokesperson wants. The world knows what Indira Gandhi's legacy is. We do not need to prove it to the likes of her. All I want to say is...
Ma'am, your time is up. Your fader's down. I'm going to take one final submission from both you and Sanju Verma after I, cut across to both our political analysts. In the studio with me is Mr. Verma, and I'll ask him that one question, which many beckon, Karan Verma, and that is because if your policy till now has been, political policy, especially where your local domestic politics is concerned, after Balakot is ghar mein ghus ke marenge, lal aankh dikhayenge. Optics are everything. So at this point of time where not once, not twice, thrice over, the President of the United States of America has publicly embarrassed you, verbally at least, that we only have the Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson address one press conference, should we have not taken a more aggressive diplomatic stand?
So, Preeti, actions at the end of the day, they speak much louder than words, as you also said right now. What are we doing right now with US? We are buying predatory drones from them, 31 in number. At the same time, nobody could stop us from buying oil from Russia at a time when there were sanctions and everything in place. So India has towed its own line. As you rightly said at the beginning, today we have a multi-alignment system. We are seeking construction projects in Ukraine right now while we buy oil from Russia, while we buy predatory drones from US. That is where we stand as a nation. And we did not shy from asking for retaliatory tariffs just yesterday in WTA against the US on steel and aluminium. So, you know, India is walking the talk. India is walking a tightrope, and at the same time, we don't need to unnecessarily elbow someone. If there is someone who is known for trash talking, and there is a rebuttal that has come from the spokesperson of the MEA, we don't need to pinch him unnecessarily just to impress the Congress party. The Congress party has long lost battles on the diplomatic table. I mean, who can forget after 1971, despite having 93,000 prisoners of war, we could not even negotiate and end the problem of Kashmir once and for all. We could have got back POK at that point of time. We could have solved the chicken neck issue. So we lost that battle, as Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw said. Indira Gandhi was fooled, his words, at the diplomatic table by Bhutto. So rather than, you know, going for this bluster and these optics, we, at this moment, the Indian government is going for solid deliverables. We are fighting a battle. At the same time, we are growing economically. Companies today are shifting from China. They are looking at China +1 options. So many of the US companies are shifting their production here. So we have to, you know, weigh everything, and that is what mature leadership is all about. It's very easy for someone to sit in the news studio and say, oh, Mr. Modi should take on Donald Trump. We need to walk the talk and build a country. We are going from strength to strength. We have a lot to lose.
So your time is up. I want to go across to Ashutosh, and then I'll come across to everyone for 1 minute each. But Ashutosh, so much has been said. You've had at one end, you know, the Congress spokesperson who speaks of no country or what was a potential ally of India has really spoken out in support of India. They all did speak out, though after the Pahalgam terror attack, but maybe not now. So, you know, what of India's diplomacy? Then, you know, with what our political analysts touched on, and there's a question that we've also asked, what was earlier on a non-alignment diplomatic policy, foreign policy, is now a multi-aligned foreign policy. Has it backfired, Ashutosh? Because this is also a time, even though we've got the S-400 from Russia, but could have done better if Russia would have vocally come out in support, you know, for India. But maybe that didn't happen because we didn't openly support Russia with their conflict of Ukraine. We tried to multi-align with both Ukraine and Russia.
Preeti, my specialization is foreign policy. Academically, I'm talking. As a professional, I'm a political journalist. I just discovered that Donald Trump was a member of a left liberal cabal. I just discovered this. Goodness to him and goodness to them. You know what is the strong leadership? When Mr. Clinton was talking to Atal Bihari Vajpayee refused to listen to him. He said, first you discipline Nawaz Sharif, then you talk to me. Now what is happening? Donald Trump, American president, is talking and Mr. Prime Minister is listening and no response. That's the difference between the true leaders. One is being talked about on a daily basis, sermonized, and no response. Other point blank said, अगर हमारी जमीन के 1 इंच पर भी पाकिस्तान है, तो कोई बातचीत नहीं होगी. That was Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So I had seen that kind of a leadership. The issue is not today what we are saying कि वो पाकिस्तान के डीजीएमओ साहब का फोन आ गया जी. अब वो कह रहे हैं हमको सबक मिल गया, हम समझ गए हैं और हम बड़े अच्छे बच्चे हो गए. अब जी सीजफायर बंद कर दो. और हमने सीजफायर बंद कर दिया. Whom we are trying to fool? I think the people are not fooled. And I can tell you one thing very frankly, because I've been talking to the BJP leaders, big leaders, small leaders, middle rank leaders. Many of them, 90% of them are very, very upset. You talk to them off the record. Even Sanju Verma will tell you how upset she is. But they will not say because they're prisoner of the party discipline. Unfortunate part is, today India is humiliated no end on a daily basis by a president about whom the BJP is saying he's erratic. That's why it's more dangerous. He's not a sane president like Clinton or the George Bush. He's an erratic president. An erratic president is repeating the same thing 4 times, 5 times. India has to be worried. And as a countryman, as a citizen, I'm worried. And I'm worried the Prime Minister is not responding.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give each of you 1 minute. So 4 minutes, you know, of airtime. Sanju Verma, final submissions. Your 1 minute begins now, ma'am.
You know, Preeti, the Congress spokesperson spoke about Sophia Qureshi. I salute her, and everybody in BJP does. I condemn what the Madhya Pradesh minister said. But let me remind the Congress and your audience, which is the largest stakeholder in such debates, after being the architect of the 1971 war, Sam Manekshaw was humiliated by Indira Gandhi simply because he told her, Bhutto made a monkey out of you. Sam Manekshaw was not even given his pension. The war was in 1971. Sam Manekshaw was finally given his pension after 36 years in 2007, thanks to APJ Abdul Kalam. When Sam Manekshaw died in 2008, not a single senior Congress leader even attended his last rites. तो ये जो कांग्रेस की यहाँ प्रवक्ता है, इनके बारे में तो लोग कहते हैं ये कांग्रेस की फीमेल तेज प्रताप यादव है. इसलिए आगे से मुझ पर टिप्पणी मत करना. प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी ने पाकिस्तान को औकात दिखाई है और आप जैसे कांग्रेसियों को भी आपकी औकात दिखाई.
All right, 1 minute. The Congress person gets my message. Go ahead.
So, Preeti, you see, China came and gave unconditional support to Pakistan. We saw Turkey and China coming together with Pakistan. You said that people did speak, for us. Expressing sympathy is one thing, Preeti, and coming in support of a country unconditionally, like an impeccable foreign policy should reflect, is another. That did not reflect over the past many weeks. And when we saw the Prime Minister speak, to the nation after a much delayed address to the nation, what we saw was a very fatigued Prime Minister because he could not really capture the situation. What we saw was another election speech. What we saw was a BJP star campaigner. We should have heard condemnation for his own people who took on to our foreign secretary. You see, we saw Vikram Misri ji being trolled. Saw Sophia Qureshi ji being trolled, but the BJP spokesperson here completely.
Mr. Verma, 1 minute, final submissions.
So, Mahima ji time and again reiterated that who really came out unconditionally in our support. Well, one country that has always stood out unconditionally in our support has been Israel. But your party has been busy passing resolutions against it ever since we can remember. In fact, recently, last year itself. So there are people who've stood with us. And let's understand this. We are not Pakistan, a dump yard which is ready to be used by anyone. Such dump yards get support, whether it's from China, whether it's from the US back then, if we go back to 1970s. So let's not compare the two. I think, Preeti, the Congress party right now is missing the forest for the trees. It could be their political compulsion. They must understand the nation right now is united for the fact that we beat Pakistan and we beat them and left them with a bloody nose and rubbed their head on the mud. That's what we did. So rather than, trying to find out minor details into it, going into what Trump said, it doesn't really matter. The fact is we hit them hard. The MEA spokesperson has come out in the open. Now we can debate how much we needed to rebut him. But the truth is we stand tall and let's be united in this.
Ashutosh, 1 minute, sir. Go ahead.
What is emulating Israel? Israel, despite the global pressure, refused to duck. They are still trying to teach a lesson to the Gaza. I do not agree most of the time, but what we did, we just left the whole battle in the middle. And yesterday only you had done a show how the BJP own supporters are very, very angry. In a survey, it came out in the survey. What is the issue today here is, the issue is very simple. And that's what the great learning for all of us is. कि वो सनम बेवफा की जगह ट्रम्प बेवफा कर देना चाहिए. वो जो क्या से क्या हो गया बेवफा तेरे प्यार में, समथिंग लाइक दिस. हम तो गले मिल रहे थे, हाउडी मोदी कर रहे थे, न जाने क्या क्या कर रहे थे, हवन कर रहे थे, and look what he did. So our whole understanding of Trump was so wrong that today we are being humiliated on a daily basis.
Your time's up. I know Sanju Verma, you want to come in, but that's all the time I have for. Well, Ashutosh, you're full of Hindi idioms today, but we're going to leave it at that. This conversation will be taken on tomorrow because there'll be multiple debates, viewers. We leave it for our viewers to decide. Was India firm enough rebutting America, or sometimes, where there are diplomatic channels involved, you might have to follow that a bit instead of being more muscular in your approach. We leave it at that. Let our viewers decide where they stand. Because now that the fog of war has lifted the spotlight on domestic politics and what's really come to the fore, some of it, ugly commentary attacking no one else but our own armed forces. Colonel Sophia Qureshi came under verbal attack by the Tribal Affairs Minister of Madhya Pradesh, where he used the most communal, unsavory language for her. The question now, will the BJP take action?
Colonel Sophia Qureshi and Wing Commander Vyomika Singh became the face of the defence forces, holding daily media briefings during the India-Pakistan conflict last week. Two women from two different faiths. The message was simple. India is united against terror. Now a Madhya Pradesh minister's statement referring to Colonel Sophia Qureshi has sparked a row.
जिन्होंने हमारी बेटियों के सिंदूर उजाड़े थे, वही कटे पिटे लोगों को हमने उन्हीं की बहन भेज करके उनकी ऐसी की तैसी करवाई। उन्होंने कपड़े उतार के हमारे हिंदुओं को मारा और मोदी जी ने उनकी बहन को उनकी ऐसी की तैसी करने हमारे जहाज से उनके घर आए।
The Congress staged protest demanding the minister's sacking.
उनकी बहन को हमने भेजा, मतलब किसकी बहन को भेजा? आतंकवादियों की बहन को भेजा या किसके लिए कहा? ऐसे मंत्री को अभी इसी वक्त पद त्यागना चाहिए। नरेंद्र मोदी जी से मेरा आग्रह, विजय शाह जी की जो भाषा थी, जो उनका बयान था, बिल्कुल गैर जिम्मेदाराना है। मैं मानता हूं ये बयान भारतीय जनता पार्टी को स्पष्ट करना पड़ेगा कि ये भाषा, ये भाव, ये विजय शाह के थे या बीजेपी के थे, और अगर विजय शाह के थे तो अभी इस्तीफा लो उनसे।
वही कटे पिटे लोगों को।
The minister initially defended the statement.
कुछ मेरे भाषण को अलग संदर्भ में ना देखें। अगर जो अलग संदर्भ में देख रहे हैं, तो मैं उनसे कहना चाहता हूं कि वो उस संदर्भ में नहीं है। वो हमारी बहनें हैं, उन्होंने बहुत ताकत से सेना के साथ मिलकर उसको बदला।
As political heat mounted, Vijay Shah backtracked.
हम लोग मिलिट्री का और सोफिया बहन का अपमान का सोच भी नहीं सकते। हमारी सगी बहन से ज्यादा और जाति समाज से ऊपर उठ करके उन्होंने देश और समाज के लिए जो काम किया है, उनको मैं सैल्यूट करता हूं। अगर उनको या किसी को भी मेरे उन बातों से कोई दुख हुआ हो तो मैं 10 बार क्षमा मांगता हूं।
The Madhya Pradesh High Court stepped in on Wednesday, ordering an FIR against Vijay Shah. The minister's statement has triggered an unwarranted controversy at a time when the country has put up a united front against Pakistan-sponsored terror. Bureau Report, India Today.